And Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. It is brought to you by the Fanatics Sportsbook at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. We'll be there tomorrow and on Monday recapping the Eagles and the Cowboys. It is game day. It's a game day edition of Football at 4 here on the Sports Bass Live on 97.3 ESPN. Eagles and Cowboys tonight, and we're going to get the inside scoop from Inside the Birds contributor Andrew DiCecco, who, of course, is going to be down there at Lincoln Financial Field tonight. Don't forget, Lincoln Financial Field is the home for the Eagles tonight. We are the home of Eagles football, 97.3 ESPN. And, of course, the Eagles take on the Cowboys. We're going to take a look at it with Andrew DiCecco right now for today's Football at 4. Eagles game day is here, and, Andrew, you've been a part of this, obviously, since the beginning of OTAs and training camp, all the preseason games. It is finally kickoff night, and the vibes around this team seem pretty interesting. I want to kind of get your perspective as, they're kind of moving the page. They've turned the page from last year, and that has been the messaging here. But overall, the vibes around this team, does it feel a lot like last year's team entering the season, or is this a completely different vibe around the 2025 Eagles as opposed to the 2024 Eagles when they started their season in Brazil?
Yeah, it feels a little bit different, Mike, in the sense that last season the Eagles knew they had a good team. You bring in someone like a Saquon Barkley. You have Vic Fangio joining the coaching staff. So there are elevated expectations, and you get the sense that they were going to make a deep run. But there was intrigue there. This season, there's more of a business-like approach. They've accomplished this before, but they're not satisfied. They're trying to be where their feet are, take a day-by-day approach and work on continuous improvement. And they're not even acknowledging the fact that they won the Super Bowl, and they're just trying to look at this as a clean slate. What you've done in the past isn't relevant. That's kind of how they're viewing it. And I'm just seeing a laser focus from this group. And that all starts at the top with Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, it seems like it. They said, we are the 2024 world champions. That is in the past. They are ready to move on. They're moving on. They're going to play Dallas. And a couple of questions, Andrew, get your feel on. They won't answer the questions, but let's see if you can. Is it pretty clear that it will be Adoree Jackson, Sidney Brown playing safety tonight, and Adoree Jackson playing corner?
Yeah, I mean, that's an accurate assessment. Anyone if you talk to any one of us who've been there for all 18 training camp practices or have an idea of the inner workings of it, Adoree Jackson started the last 3 practices to end training camp with the first team opposite Quinyon Mitchell. They didn't dress him in the preseason finale. That right there indicates that they like what they see. And then actually, I believe it was maybe Monday, it was Quinyon Mitchell and Adoree Jackson working off to the side with defensive backs coach Christian Parker, and you had Keely Ringo, Mac McWilliams, and Jacorian Bennett working with the kickoff team. So you look at the breadcrumbs there. That really shouldn't be a surprise. And then for Sidney Brown, he's simply just taken more of the first-team reps this summer. He's gotten more opportunity to work through some things and really fine-tune the details of a Vic Fangio defense. So Makuba is the superior player. He's the better fit ultimately in this defense, but he hasn't had enough reps to suggest that he's ready from week 1, day 1, to be in there as the safety is going to take the healthy share of the snap. So I imagine it's going to be Sidney Brown to start, and then it just feels inevitable that Drew Makuba will eventually leapfrog him and become that starting safety opposite Reed Blankenship.
All right, let's get your thoughts then on how those two players, Jackson, Sidney Brown, factor into the game tonight. You look at CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, Jake Ferguson. They do have a pretty powerful passing opportunity here, the Cowboys. If they're going to do something well this season, it's probably going to be in the pass game. What do you see in that matchup tonight?
Yeah, I'm expecting them to really try to get things rolling with tight end Jake Ferguson. When you have a rookie linebacker like Jihad Campbell and an inexperienced safety like Sidney Brown, who played 79 defensive snaps last season, and there's not a lot of tape on him, you're going to try and test him and pepper the short to intermediate levels of the field. And if you're the Cowboys, you're going to hope that you're going to catch the Eagles in some coverage lapses. But you look at the other side of Quinyon Mitchell, and I assume that Adoree Jackson's going to see a ton of George Pickens. And from a body type perspective, there's a big mismatch there. George Pickens is more of the physical, big-bodied, above-the-rim style receiver, and Adoree Jackson is on the more diminutive side as a corner, and I'm expecting him to sort of play off coverage, probably give up some things underneath with the emphasis on not giving up anything down the field. But whoever lines up opposite Quinyon, whether it's Adoree Jackson to start and maybe eventually Jacorian Bennett, they're going to get peppered and targeted heavily on that side. So I think George Pickens is going to see a lot of volume tonight. CeeDee Lamb is the top receiver on this offense, and ordinarily I would suggest that Quinyon Mitchell is going to travel with the top receiver because that's what Vic Fangio indicated. But CeeDee Lamb reps an awful lot in the slot, and the Eagles have a pretty good one in Cooper DeJean, so I think you like that matchup as well.
All right. Obviously, Andrew, a lot of the questions about the Eagles have been on the defensive side of the ball throughout training camp to here, but they got Jahad Campbell in the first round. Let's ask a question about him and how he makes this defense different from the defense that had Nakobe Dean last year.
Yeah, it's a great question. So Nakobe Dean, and it's important not to undersell what he did for this defense last season. Linebackers coach Bobby King said that the Eagles don't do what they did defensively last season without 17, and I wholeheartedly agree with that. But he's more of a tone-setting, run-defending, downhill linebacker who improved in coverage, but now with Jahad Campbell, he arms the Eagles with another rangy, athletic, second-level defender to pair alongside Zach Bond, and he covers a lot of ground. He has the length that I think should be able to narrow throwing windows, and he's a physical player. But I think it's the athleticism and the ability to have that sideline-to-sideline range that separates him from Nakobe in that area. Now, Nakobe's one of the smartest Eagles defensive players that they have, and he will have a role, in my opinion, when he returns. But you're asking what separates the two. It's just the all-encompassing skill set that you get in a Jahad Campbell, which I think that he and Zach Bond really complement each other ideally.
Football at 4, Andrew DiCecco from the Inside the Birds podcast, InsideTheBirds.com. Eagles and Cowboys tonight. I want to get your take, Andrew, on if you've got a hold on what this offense will be. Is it going to be different? Is it going to have a different kind of feel and look to it? Or is it going to be, hey, Saquon Barkley, the bell cow, big year for him, and the pass game is what it is?
I'm not so sure that I have a firm grasp on what the offense is going to look like, nor do I think that anyone really can, because training camp is not the ultimate indicator of what it's going to look like come week one when everything's live. But if I'm to kind of connect the dots and look at some of the background, like Chan Gailey, a 46-year coach who had a 46-year coaching career, was a mentor to Patullo, and some of the other coaches that Kevin has been around in his career, I think it's fair to surmise that you might see something of a West Coast-style offense that's timing-based and predicated on getting the ball out of the quarterback's hands quickly, and the short to intermediate passing game. I do think you're going to see them push the ball down the field a little bit more, because to evolve suggests that you take a next step forward and expand on something that maybe you didn't get a chance to fully showcase last season. So to me, that's the passing game. Perhaps you see the running backs a little bit more incorporated in the receiving game, but that's kind of my read on it right now. We're all going to kind of learn about what this offense looks like in the coming weeks, especially what they roll out there tonight. But I have full confidence in Kevin Patullo just based on being around him, talking to him, listening to what he has to say, and seeing how he coaches on the field and how he engages with his players. He's been in the building for a number of years. He's entering his 5th year with Jalen Hurts. So until proven otherwise, I think a lot of folks should be optimistic about the Kevin Patullo era.
Is there a guy on this offense? Last year had Barkley, Brown, and obviously Smith. Goddard, he has his role too. But is there somebody else this year that you're going to have your eyes on that could add another layer to this offense?
Yeah, to me it's simple. It's second-year running back Will Shipley. You talk about the receiving element. In my opinion, he's the Eagles' most natural pass-catching running back. He's a work in progress in pass protection, but he adds another dimension to the offense. He's twitchy. He's explosive. He's good in space. And I think more importantly, Mike, is that the Eagles, specifically Jalen Hurts, trusted him as an outlet option on many occasions this summer. And what we've learned from Jalen Hurts is that if he doesn't have a lot of reps with you, if he doesn't fully trust you, or he's trying to really establish that rapport, and that's a work in progress, he's not going to look your way all that much. Jahan Dotson's probably a really good example, because it wasn't until later in the season where Jalen started to turn to him in critical moments. So I think Will Shipley, because he's the ideal in-game change of pace option to Saquon Barkley and can be that Kenny Gainwell role and serve as that 2 and 4 minute running back that the Eagles so highly covet, that's where I could see him carving out a role.
All right, Andrew DiCecco, let me get your take then on where, Micah Parsons no longer here, big pass rushing loss here. Where do you attack this Dallas defense tonight if you're Kevin Patula? Game one, you're looking over this defense. I'm going after what?
I would say it's a secondary. You attack the secondary. They're going to have trouble covering. I know they just paid Deron Bland and Trayvon Diggs is there. Their safeties leave a little something to be desired, and Malik Hooker and Donovan Wilson. This could be a big Dallas Goedert game where he threatens that second level and really starts to make plays between the numbers, which is something we haven't seen an awful lot of. But I also think that the inside zone runs tonight for the Eagles should have a lot of success because Osa Odigizua, their defensive tackle, he's undersized. Kenny Clark's a new addition there, and you have to wonder about the other players behind them in terms of who's filling in for Micah Parsons, and they have some undersized players like Donovan Ezaraku. I feel like the Eagles should be able to kind of bully them in the running game.
All right, Andrew, the other thing is here, obviously, when you look at the Eagles, we think about that offensive line and how good and how deep they are. Tyler Steen is the one newcomer there. Obviously, Landon Dickerson, there were some questions whether he would play. It looks like he will play tonight. But is Tyler Steen going to be an issue this year where Mekhi Becton was last year? Do you think that spot is solid and secure?
I don't think that Tyler Steen's going to be an issue this year. And anyone of any member of your audience who's listened to me, anyone who's read my work or heard me elsewhere, knows that I've been bullish on Tyler Steen, even dating back to last season. I've had a lot of conversations with him, and what I've observed from him is a player who, when he started to stack days in training camp, productive days, that's where I saw the confidence really start to manifest. He's a quiet guy by nature, but I'm starting to see the way that he carries himself in a much more confident manner, and that's what happens when you're out there and you're executing your coaching from Jeff Stoutland. You're hearing whether it's Lane Johnson, Landon Dickerson, Jeff Stoutland offer ringing endorsements for him, or even defensive players that are singing his praises. I think there's something to be said for that. And he spoke, I guess it was late last week, and he was very transparent. He doesn't want to be the guy that is perceived to be the weak link. There's all pros, there's household names on that offensive line, and then more or less there's him. And he just wants to be able to do his part, and he said he's feeling very confident.
Give me a thing from you that you're looking tonight and worried about. Like Dallas does this well, I want to see how Philly responds.
I think just Dak Prescott being a veteran quarterback, knowing where to take advantage of deficiencies on the back end. So just throwing it up there and throwing some touch passes and with George Pickens and trying to capitalize on the Eagles' second cornerback and maybe some inexperience there at safety. Just when you have a savvy veteran quarterback like that, that really is their hallmark. It's certainly not in the running game with Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders. I think when you look at the Dallas Cowboys, the only way that they can sort of threaten the Eagles is via the passing game, and that's what I'm expecting.
All right, Andrew, obviously you take a look at what the Eagles and Cowboys bring to the table. Game one, banner, passion, energy, coming off the championship. You've seen them all. Is this a tough spot to play Dallas, or is this the perfect team to kind of start this season off with?
Yeah, I think it's the perfect team because as if you need any other motivation, it's the season opener at home in front of a raucous, impassioned crowd, but you're going against a division rival, so you have to be hyper-focused because you want to get off to a good start in that case, and it's also an opportunity for the Eagles to go out there and I think really not a measuring stick because they're head and shoulders better than the Cowboys, but really start to showcase who you are and start to establish an identity. And when you look at it in those terms, I think that that's all the more reason for them to be fully dialed in. And I think it's a really good spot, a perfect opponent for them to be playing opening night.
All right, Andrew DiCecco at Lincoln Financial Field tonight. He'll be there. The coverage over at InsideTheBirds.com, the Inside the Birds podcast, and all week long, of course, during Football at 4 here on the Sports Bass live on 97.3 ESPN. Andrew, enjoy the game tonight. We're looking forward to your coverage.
Thanks, man.
All right, Andrew DiCecco, Football at 4. It is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast.